Okay, recording started. So let's start, guys. Good afternoon, everyone. I welcome you all to the session 2 of Android Study Jam by DSC GECR. And as you all know that we are being facilitated by Mukund Kulkarni. So in the last session, we have learned about Kotlin programming language, the variables, the functions, and all those stuff. But now today we are going to dive into the Android Studio, which is the platform for creating the Android application. So without a further delay, let's start, and over to you, Mukund.
Thank you, Jamik. So welcome back, guys. I hope my audio is clear. So, and I know that you guys are very excited to start Android development. I hope that you guys revised all your Kotlin basics that we did few weeks back. There was a gap in between due to the DSC wow, and I hope you guys didn't forget any Kotlin basics. Not to worry, we will do a quick recap also. Let me start with my presentation. Is my screen visible?
Yes, Mukund.
Okay. So welcome back, guys, to the second session of our Android study jams. So for the prerequisites for today's session, if you have an previous experience in any object-oriented programming language, it would be very nice. But if not, don't worry. I will be giving you a brief introduction to the object-oriented programming paradigm. You should be comfortable with using an IDE, that is an integrated development environment. Like if you have used Visual Studio Code or PyCharm and any other IDE that you might have used. Uh, this is not actually required. If you are familiar with navigating GitHub, then it's very good. And I suggest those who have not created an GitHub account, they create it now, especially first year students. There is this something called GitHub Education Pack, where they provide quite a good amount of resources like your free domain hosting and domain names, other courses and all that. So you can create that. And if you want to know a bit more about how to use GitHub and Git, we had a previous session hosted by Dhaval Bhai. It's also on our YouTube channel DSC GECR. You can go and watch that. And in we shared a link to how to install Android Studio previously, and I hope you guys have installed Android Studio on your computer. like we received a few questions regarding this, the Android Studio was not working and the limitations of certain laptops, but we can't do anything about that. Android Studio is resource heavy, and you need to work with that. Internet connection is required because when you will be compiling your Android apps, it will download some dependencies, so it is required. And this is optional. You need your Android device and USB cable to like run your Android apps on your Android device. But if you have a good machine, you can use the emulator also. So in the first session, we went through the basics of Kotlin language, like the functions, default and named arguments, strings, variables, etc. The classes and the object oriented part is still remaining. Don't worry. I will give you a brief introduction to it after this presentation. So first of all, can someone from you tell me why you are interested in building Android apps? Anyone? Hello. Am I audible?
Yes, Mukund. Guys, you can also type in chat if you want.
So let me share like why I am interested in building Android apps is that like for the reach, like there are 2.5 billion Android devices. So you can see like if you even create a simple app and useful app, the amount of impact it will create is quite huge. The second reason is that regarding the hackathons, like so we have the Smart Gujarat hackathon, the Smart India hackathon, and quite a lot of problem statements in there. Jamik. Okay, so you see, in Smart India Hackathon and Smart Gujarat Hackathon, quite a lot of problem statements like have to you have to make Android apps, and if you have learned it, then it's quite useful, and you can win those hackathons very easily. Also, like there are some internships, not internship, like if you have heard about Google Summer of Code and the MLH fellowship, in that also quite a few companies offer internship on Android app development, which will be quite useful to like you guys. So let's see, look at the apps that you will build today. Like we hope like we will complete all the three apps by today's session. The first will be a dice roller app. We will be making an about me app and a color my views app. So today's schedule, like we will complete the presentation, then we will start with our pathways. Pathways, like I will show you what pathways are. Then we will try to complete all the three pathways today. If not, then we will continue tomorrow. So let's start with what is Android Studio. So Android Studio is an integrated development environment like developed by JetBrains. So it's an like a default, you can say it's an default IDE for Android development. It's quite good, like it provides quite everything like the layout designer, the emulator. It has an inbuilt debugger, resource monitor that makes Android development quite easy. As I told you, the Android emulator, it comes with the Android Studio. You can like use it to run Android apps on your computer directly without any external devices. But it is quite resource heavy, so if you don't have a high-end laptop, I would suggest that you guys like use an USB cable and your own Android device to check your apps. So a few basic Android terminologies that I would like to make you acquainted with before starting Android development. I will explain it in deeper as we explore different tracks. But so what are layouts? So layouts, you can say, are basically containers where you put in your like different elements of your user interface, like your button, your text views, your images, and all that. So you can say the next thing that most important thing in Android development is view groups. So what are view groups? You can say view groups are invisible objects that contains collection of views and both view groups. So like you can say in a view group, you can have your button, another view group. There are different types of view groups like frame layout, linear layout, constraint layout. We will see each one of them in the further sessions. So in view groups, you can like place your position, your different elements like your buttons and all that, so that they can be shown on your user interface. Like now the views. So what are views? Like views are the things that are displayed on the user interface that the users interact with, like the text view, image view, and button. So there are two ways in which you can design a layout in the Android Studio. Like you can use the XML, or you can use the design layout designer given by the Android Studio to make your layouts. Uh, we will see the basic autonomy of a basic Android project. like what are activities, what are resources, what is the Android manifest.xml file, what are Gradle files. So let's start. Before that, like I had showed this in the previous session too, but let me just show it once again. Like uh, this is where you will be doing your completing your activities, your tracks, your pathways, so that you can collect your digital badges that you can showcase on your Google developer profile, and this is where you will be completing the tracks so that you can be eligible to get your certificate. So Jamie, can we have this link in the chat? I hope I know you guys were present in the last session.
Yep, shared.
Okay. So this is where you will be going. If you don't have that much confidence in your programming skills, I would recommend that you start with the new to programming track, and then you can definitely complete the prior programming experience so that you can get your certificate. It's not that much difficult. Both are same, but the new to programming track is quite detailed uh, than the prior programming experience track. So you can click on start course. You can see that we have different units here, like unit 1 and unit 2. You can see like there are different batches that you can collect. So the first pathway, as we had seen earlier, is the build your first app. uh, like you can collect your badges. So let's get started, right? So I hope you guys have installed Android Studio, right? Anyone who faced any problem while installing Android Studio? Hello. Okay, so I think like you guys, oh, someone's raising a hand. Mandrak Rawal, do you have a question?
Yes, no problem in installing, but I want to connect my own device to run the apps. How can I do it? Because my system is a
Oh,
bit low and
okay, yeah, sure. I will show you how to do that definitely. We will first start, and when I will show you the first step, like the Hello World app, I will show you how you can run the app in your own Android device.
okay, thank you.
So guys, this is going to be an hands-on session. So I hope like you guys have also started Android Studio on your laptop, so that like you can complete all the pathways as I'm doing them, as I'm explaining them, right? So let's start. So the first build your first app, like you need to install your, you can go there, you can click on take a code lab. The first task is to install your Android Studio, and I think like most of you have done that. The next thing we are going to do is create your first app, that is the Hello World app. Okay, let me start my Android Studio. So when you start your Android Studio, you are like you the first window that comes is that you can create a new project here. Yeah. So when you create a new project, the thing that I said earlier about like the activities. So an activity is where the user interacts with your views, like your buttons and all that. So there are many default activities provided by Google already, like the basic activity, the Google Maps activity that you can use. Like these are standard activities that most apps use when they design their apps. So we are going with an empty activity. You can give it any name. So one thing I would like to tell you about is the package name. So the package name com.example.hello world, like it's an unique identifier. Like when you publish your apps on Play Store and any other site, this package name is used to identify your app. We are going to use the Kotlin language, of course. So what is this minimum SDK? So the minimum SDK tells you till what like version of Android you can run your Android app will run properly. So we will select Android 4.4, that is KitKat, and it shows that your app will run on approximately 98.1% devices, and that's quite good. Let's finish. So it will take a bit of time, like it will create some default files that your Android development requires. So you can note the Gradle build that's running below. So to talk about Gradle build is like, so Gradle is an build automation system, like that it does quite a few things like compiling, packaging, handling dependencies, imports and all that for quite a few languages, including Java. So while it's doing that, let me just show you how you can enable USB debugging on your device. Okay, so you can go to your settings, system, and as you can see I have developer options enabled, but if it's not enabled in your phone, you can go to about phone and you can tap build number, like your build number 5 to 6 times, and you will see like the developer options is visible. Is this screen visible to you? Hello.
Yes, Mukund.
Okay. So when your developer options is visible, you can like start your USB debugging. Oh, sorry. So you can start your USB debugging, and through that you can run your Android apps on your Android device. So I hope that's clear, right? Any problem doing this, guys? Hello?
Yes, Mukund, you can continue. Carry on.
Uh, Mandrak, are you done with that?
Yes.
Okay. So let's first look at what Android Studio provides us with. So let's look at the project structure. Like we have different files that were created when we started a new project, like this Android manifest.xml file. Like here you like show your different permissions that you require, like your location or your messages and all that. You have your default Android theme listed here. You have this section about the activity and the intent filter. So any new activity that you create needs to be like entered here. Like when you create apps, there are obviously going to be many different activities that you are going to use. uh, the intent filter, like the main in different, like in Java you have got a main function, right? So whenever you compile and run the program, it starts with the main function. So in this, the intent filter defines like from which activity you should start. Let's look at this file. So this is the main activity, as I said. Like this is the activity that will be run when you like execute your Android application. Then we have an activity underscore main XML file. This is how your layout designer look like. So by default, the first app is the Hello World app. You can switch to the XML editor using this code section here. So this is how the XML, you can create your layouts using XML2. We have a split view, like you can make changes to your XML here and you can preview them here. Then we have got a resources folder. Like in this resources folder, like a lot of statics things that you are going to use in your Android project, like your uh, images and strings and all that will be shown here. Like if we see, you have this default Android icon that will be visible when you install your app. In the drawable section, you can like import different resources like your images, PNG files, XML files, so that you can use them with your Android project. Then we have this layout file, as we have seen earlier. Then in the values section, we have different files like the string. In this, you can define your string resources that you have used throughout the Android project. I will tell you why it's quite useful to like list your string resources here. Then the default colors that we have used to make our Android app. Then this is the Gradle script that I talked about, that handles the dependencies and the compiling process. If you look at the app, there are quite a few sections here, like the compiled SDK version, uh, that shows like till using which SDK version was our Android, like this app compiled. Then we have our dependencies here. I hope there is not too much lag while I am explaining, right, Jamik?
No, it's going fine.
Okay. So these are the dependencies that when you compile the build Gradle will download and use to run your Android application. So without waiting any longer, let's just run the app. So as I said, like it takes a quite a bit of time while build like it downloads few files that are necessary to run your app. So it will take a bit time. Okay. So as you can see, you have successfully created your first app and installed it on your own device. You can see here the Hello World app. Also, let's look here what this is. So this here you can change like the device you want to run your Android application on. Like by default it used my device, but I also have an emulator installed, so I can change to that. I am not going to show you that because it like takes a quite a bit of memory and hangs the computer. But if you have a high-end laptop, you can definitely use an emulator. Then we have different options like run app. If you have made any changes to your application, like let me make a simple change. Let me change that to hello. All right. So when I apply changes, you can see. Okay. So I think that's almost everything about the Android Studio that I can share. So let's look at what uh, if I have skipped anything.
Mukund bhai,
Yes, yes,
uh,
please.
I am not able to see my device in Android Studio.
You are not able to see your device in Android Studio. Okay.
Yes,
So did you enable the USB debugging that I
yes, I
showed?
enabled it. Yes,
Uh,
And the developer options.
yes, unlock developer options and then enabled USB debugging.
Okay, so I think there would be something showing like troubleshoot your device connections. Is there an option for
Yeah,
you there? So you can run
yeah,
that, or you can do
I
a
did that also.
okay, like you
Should I
if you
start?
can try ref what
Yes, yes, yes.
you can try refreshing. Like there is, I don't exactly know, there is a button for to refresh like the list of Android devices available.
Actually, can I share my camera? Can I start my camera?
Yes, you can start, but Mandrak, what we recommend is keep continuing with the code in the session, and at the end you
Okay,
can
okay.
share your screen and we can resolve your doubt.
Okay, okay, no problems, no
Is
problems.
that fine? Okay, sure.
Yes, yes, yes.
Okay,
Okay,
so let's continue with this. We have completed that. uh, I did not show you how to create an virtual device, so you can see it here. Like you can go to your AVD manager, create your virtual device, select the device that you want to create, and your virtual device will be created, and you can run your app on that device. I showed you this how to run your app on your physical device. uh, did you try this? Like did you allow from your mobile that it should allow USB debugging? The student who was facing problem.
Okay, there was nothing like that. I am connected with Teams in my phone, the same phone which I am trying to debug, USB debug.
Okay, I don't think that should be an issue.
Okay,
We will see at the end of the session, right? Okay.
okay, 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 okay.
So like to explain about the pathways, like these are quite simple, right? There are some optional coding challenges that you can do if you like. Then each pathway ends with a quiz. So let's take a quiz, right? So I hope like you guys will answer. So the first question is, Dash is an integrated development environment or IDE used for building apps. So anyone who would like to give an answer in the chat, or you can unmute yourself. Hello. Can anyone tell like which IDE we use to build Android apps?
Android Studio.
Anyone?
Yes, absolutely
Yes,
right.
correct.
Uh, what is the name of the auto-generated layout file in the new project you created with Android Studio? The file in which we yes, please.
activity_main.xml.
Yes. Uh, the Android manifest.xml file contains important information. Choose two from the following list that should be defined in the Android manifest XML file.
Activity in the app and permissions.
Yes, okay. In Android Studio, which tool do you use to create an virtual device?
AVD manager.
And Dash is an build automation system that uses a domain specific language for project structure, configuration, and dependencies. What?
Great.
Yes, it's Gradle. And then you can submit your answers. So very nice, like you have cleared your first pathway. Like if you did it with me, you would have got your Android developer badge like this. So as you can see, like the first batch that I have collected, right? So let's start with the next pathway. Before that, let me give you a brief basic understanding about classes and how classes are used in the Android development. So what you can say is that classes are kind of an blueprint that we use to define real world entities that would be very much difficult to like program using the previous paradigm that we used, that the procedural programming paradigm that we used, right? So in classes, uh, you you have a basic blueprint, like there are some attributes, like some properties for any object, and you have different methods that you want to run on that objects, right? So the way you can create uh, classes in the Kotlin language is that, hello. So the way you can create classes in the Kotlin language is that you can use the class keyword. Before that, we have an open keyword. So any classes that is not like preceded by the open keyword is marked as final. Any class that is marked as final cannot be inherited. I will explain what inheritance is so in this example, like I have created a sample class of an animal. The animal has different attributes like name, it is of the data type string, and attribute height of type double, and attribute weight of type double. I hope you remember these things, right? Like how we used to define a variable and its type. Okay. So like we have created an basic blueprint for any animal, right? So using that animal, we can give it a name and its height, its weight. These are the properties of our class. Then we have this keyword called the init. So if you come from like Java or C++, so this is what we call an constructor. This is what is executed whenever you create an object or an instance of a class, right? So what are instance of a class is that if I have created this class of an animal and I create an instance, that means an object or an entity of that class, like a dog or a cat, something. So whenever I create an entity, this init section will be executed and everything in it will be checked, right? So you can consider this as an constructor if you come from Java or C++ background. So in that, like I have done a few things, like I have created an regular expression. You don't need to understand that. Then I'm checking like if my height should be greater than 0. If it's not, then it will print like height must be greater than 0. My weight should be greater than 0, else it will print like your weight should be greater than 0, right? Then I have created an method or a function, as you can say, to get information about the instance or the object of the class that I have created. uh, so like you can think of this as these are the properties, and using that properties, what all things our class can do are defined in the methods. So in the main function, I created an variable of class type animal, dog, and in that I have given the values to the properties. Like for the name, I have given Tom. The height is 1.5, the weight is 2.5, and when I call the method that we created here, doc.getInfo, we can see that Tom is 1.5 tall and weighs 2.5, right? So let me create another instance of the class. Like I create a cat, it's of the type animal. So let's so we I created another instance of my class animal, a cat, and then I can call my get info method on that. Oh, sorry. So you can see like when I was defining my properties, I said the height should be a double value, but as I gave it an integer value, it showed me an error. So now you can see Jerry is 15 tall and weighs 2.5. This is how classes work. So why this was important? Because in Android development, we make use of like everything is defined using classes. Like there is an activity class that you use to create an activity. There is a class for the views, like for image view we have a different class, for text view we have a different class, and each of these classes have these attributes. Like for the text view we have an attribute called style, the text size, the width, and the layout that you can set, etc. Also just to give you a brief introduction about the inheritance. So what inheritance is actually is like you created an class, but like it's the base class, right? So using that class you want to create another class which includes like all the properties of this base class, but has its some its own properties, right? So like for example, you created an animal class, then for that animal you want to create two subclasses, like the animal can be an amphibian or can be an reptile. So you create, you inherit this like you create a class amphibian, you inherit the properties of the animal class, that is the name, height and weight, and then you include some other properties like for amphibians, like can swim or cannot swim, like that. So inheritance is also quite useful because it makes your code quite shorter, and like it solves very much like it is very useful to solve real world problems, right? So like if I tell you the activity class like is a base class, then we have an activity compat, that is a subclass of the activity in Android development, that we use for backward compatibility of your apps, right? uh, so that's it about classes. Let's begin with our second pathway. Uh, So in the second pathway, we are going to create an dice roller app, right? So what this app basically does is that like you click the button and it shows a random number from 1 to 6. Okay. So let's start. So let me make changes in this app only. If you want, you can create a new project. Okay, let me create a new project. We will be using an empty activity. I already have a dice roller application, so I am giving a different name. All right. Let me close this. So in this, we will be like seeing how you can create different layouts, how you can like interact with your buttons, how you can change your text views using your buttons, right? How you can add your buttons, how you can change the text and all that. So as explained earlier, this is our like default layout, the main layout. This is our main Kotlin file where we do all the computation. So let's start. So as you can see here, like as I talked about different layouts, so what we are using here is the constraint layout. It's a type of layout where like everything is in relative to other views, right? So everything is related to different views. So what this does is that it creates an responsive app, like different phones have different screen resolutions and different sizes. So using a constraint layout, you can change your user interface based on the device that like, to make the user interface quite responsive. So in this like in the pathway, they have used a linear layout at the beginning. You can use a linear layout or you can stick with the constraint layout here. So I'm going to like use the by default the constraint layout. So now you can either make changes here in the XML file, or you can either drag and drop your widgets using the layout designer. So let me add an Android button here. Okay. So you can see it tells me that this view is not constrained. That means that this view is we haven't given any constraint to this button as to where it should be placed when your when your activity is run, right? So that's that is very important in the constraint layout, that you need to give at least two constraint, either one of the horizontal constraint and the vertical content constraint, so that your view can be positioned properly. So you can see on this side we have an constraint editor. Like you can use this to set your constraints. Like you can use this to set your margins. We have actually, then you can use this to, this is called a constraint bias, that you can use this to position your view as per the constraint given. The 50% positions it into the center. So let's delete the bottom constraint here. You can click on this cross here, it will delete the bottom constraint. Then we can, to like create a constraint to a view, you can just click on the circle here and just drag and connect it with the circle of the text view. Then we can assign the bottom constraint, the left constraint, and the right constraint. You can all right. So here you can see it's giving me an warning. So it's showing me that the hard-coded string button should use a string resource. I will tell you what string resources are and why they are useful. So string resources are basically static values that you will be using throughout your Android project, right? So the one reason they are useful is because that if you are using going to use the same string over and over again in your app, then you can just create a single string resource and then you can call it anywhere. Also right, so like it's quite useful, like I'm using this hello world string at multiple places, then I can like create a single string resource and then like call it anywhere in my project. So to fix this, click here and then let's add a string resource. So I'm giving the resource name role button. All right. To change the text here, you can see there are different attributes to the view. So you can go to this search button here and search for okay. First, let me tell you about this ID. So this ID is like it's an unique identifier to like that you can use to call a reference to your widget in your Kotlin file or like throughout your Android project. Okay. Uh, so let me change that to whole number and let me change. So what this refactor thing does is that like it changes each and every reference of the like ID to the roll number in each and every file wherever we have used the hello world. Then let's change this to this. So
Mukund,
I think
sorry
that
to interfere.
yes, please.
How to add the button?
You can just like
Okay. Done.
you can just drag
Thank
and
you.
drop here. Yes. All right. So let's first run it and see how it is visible. So you can click here, run app. So as you can see, we have successfully added a button and a text view, though it doesn't do anything right now. But we will like make it do something. So let's look at the XML part for a bit, right? So as you can see, we have used a constraint layout. These are the default like attributes for the constraint layout. Like we have a layout width, layout height. This match parent means uh, that the view size will be equal to the size of the parent. Like if I have a size of 150 dp and then I set the layout width of its child as match parent, then its size will also be equal to 150 dp. Then we have got a wrap content. So what this wrap content does is that it will limit the size of the view to to just accommodate the content. Like so if I had a bigger string here, then the view size would increase. uh, then this is the code for the button that we have created, like its layout width, its layout height, right? uh, so let's change the button to something else. So in this you can see we created an string resource for the button file, right? The role button. So I want to change it to role. So as you can see the button text has been changed to role. So now what I want to do is whenever I press the role button, I want to change this hello world to something else, right? So let's do that. How we can do? So this is our main activity Kotlin file. We are, as you can see, we are using the main activity class, and it inherits the properties of app compact activity. This is used, like it's the sub class that is responsible for the backward compatibility, like you can run your app on older phones. uh, there is not a concept of constructors in Android development, as I explained in about the classes. Instead, there are some methods like on create, on pause, on start that are used. Like whenever you start your application or your application is running in background, these methods are called. So we have this on create function here. Now let's create a function. Like what we want to do is that when we click on our button, we want to change the hello world text to something else. So let me create a function. Right. So in that, what I want to do is I want to reference my text view. So how we can do that is that we can create variable. It's of the type text view, and then we use this method find view by ID. Right. In that method we pass in the ID that we created earlier, right? So we pass it using r.id dot. We created what we gave the name. The text view has an ID role num. Okay. So whenever I click on the role button, what I want to do is I want to get the reference to my text ID, and I want to set its text to something else, right? All right. But we are done with it, but we still haven't created a reference for the button where we can like click it. So let's create a reference for our button. It's of the type button, and what we use the find view by ID. We pass in the ID name that we gave to the button. So when we are when we have a reference to our button, what we want to do, we want to create an click listener. It's called we set an click listener. So whenever you press that button, we want to execute this function. So what we want to do is that we want to set click listener, right? So in that set click listener, what we want to do, whenever my roll button is pressed, I want to call the roll dice function that we created. Okay, so also one thing that I would like to tell you here, like some of you would have got some errors regarding the import statements, right? Like this button is not imported, the text view is not imported. So what you can do is that you can either like if it's giving an error, you can go there and plus enter, alter enter, so that it will automatically import. But what I suggest is that you should change your project settings. You can go to file, new project settings for new projects, and enable this add ambiguous imports on the fly in both the sections in Kotlin and in Java. So what this does is that if the import is obvious, it will the Android Studio will directly include this import statement here, and you will not have to like import it explicitly. So I think that's done. Let's run the app and see. So as you can see, when I clicked on the roll button, the text changed, right? So that's what we wanted. So now all we want to do is like, instead of changing it to some text, what we want to do is that we want to generate a random number from 1 to 6, and whenever I press the roll dice button, that a random number should be generated and it should be displayed, right? So to do that, we want a random number from the range 1 to 6. So you can, if you remember how to create ranges, we used to create ranges using this two dot, and then we will going to use, oh, 1 second. And then I want to convert it to string, because my text is going to be a type of string, right? So now let's run it. So as you can see, we have created, like whenever we press a button, a random number is generated, right? So now all we want to do is like it's not that much fun to see a few numbers change, right? So what we would like to do is we would like to replace these numbers with an image, so that it more feels more like a dice, right? So what we would do, we will like import a few resources and try to replace this number with an image of a dice corresponding to the same number. So like, if you Jamik, can you share the link to download the dice images?
Yep, shared.
Okay, so as you can see, you need to download that zip file, and in that there are already pre-drawn images for the dice that we are going to use to create our dice roller app, right? So I will give you a few minutes to download that zip file. So once you are done, what you can do is you can go to tools, then you can go to the resource manager. So what this resource manager does, that it handles your static resources like your icons, your colors that you have used, the string resources. You can see the string resource that we created, roll button here, right? So what we want images of dice. So you click the plus button here. You want to import drawables. Okay. So I think I have some different set of images. Yours would be XML. Don't worry, the coding part is the same. So I have selected all the images and just click next and import. As you can see, the like the drawables of the dice have been imported here. Now, so what we want to do now is that instead of this simple text view, we want to display the corresponding number of the dice, right? So let's go back to the activity XML layout, and we don't want this text view here anymore. We want a image view. So you can delete this text view. Right, and we want an image view instead of the text view where you can show your dice images. So select your dice image. So it's quite large, right? Don't worry. So first let's just set its constraint. We want let's reduce its size. So you can see change the size. You can change the scale type. So there are different types of scale types available in these attributes, right? Like you can try each one of them. The center crop scale type, what it does, what it does is that it centers okay the dimension.
Mukund, you can change its height and width directly.
I was actually searching for that. I don't know where it is. Like you mean from here, right? It's not.
Yes, from here or from code, you can assign it 200 by 200 dp or sp something.
But why isn't it showing in this attributes section?
Remove your scale type from center fit to center. Do it.
Let me just change it here. I don't know why it's not working. layout height to wrap content and layout width to wrap content, and I want Jamik, where is the size option here? I can't find it.
You can scale the image.
Yes, I'm trying that, but it's not
I
working.
guess because you have already given the constraints. Do one thing, delete the image and import it again. Add the image view again.
All right. Okay. So it should change the scale type and it should work, I think, but it's not working.
Because of the dimensions, I guess, reduce it manually by dragging. And then give the constraints.
Okay. I think that's good enough. Let's give the horizontal and vertical constraints. Okay, so now the size is proper. We have got the button. We are getting an warning here again. Let's see what the warning is. It shows like image without content description. So what this warning means is that each image should have an content description, right? So what it tells that, like, you might have seen, like, your Android comes with an feature called talkback. Like, it's useful for people who can't see, like, so whatever is on your Android screen, it like speaks back to the user. So if your image has an content description, yeah, like, the Android knows what to tell, instead of that showing that image, right? So let's run this and see how it looks now. Okay, sorry. So we removed the text view, so we don't need that. We don't need that. Okay. So as you can see, like, our image is visible, we have a role button. So what we now want to do is that like when we click the role button, we want to create a random number, and through that random number we want to display the dice image corresponding to that number, right? So let's do that. So before starting that, let's give this image a good ID. So dice, all right. So what we want to do, basically the same thing. So first we want to like generate random numbers from 1 to 6, right? So let me create variable result is equal to I don't need to convert it to a string now. So we will have a variable from 1 to 6 in this result section, in this result variable. So now whenever I press my button, what I want to do is I want to change uh, the dice image to the number corresponding to this result, right? So we can use an if else, or we can use a uh, when result. So when my result is equal to 1, I want to set my roll dice one second dot I want to set its image resource to this resource, right? So instead of doing this, what I can do is that I can create a variable for storing the image. All right, so when my result is 1, I want to set my image view, its image resource to dice 1. Okay, so you can see uh, let me show you. So in my drawable section, we have these dice images that we imported. So what we are doing is that whenever my result is 1, we are setting it to the resource image corresponding to dice 1, right? So we'll do the same thing for phi. So I hope you guys remember like the syntax of the when uh, conditional statement that we did in the previous session. So what I'm basically doing is that I am setting my image resource to this drawable. If my result is 1, if my result is 2, I am setting it to the corresponding dice image, right? Okay, I don't need the 6 here. If it's not from 1 to 5, I want it to set to 6. Okay. So I think everything's good. Let's run the app. So you can see like we have a random number and corresponding to that number the dice image is changed. So I think it's lagging quite that because these dice images are quite like high resolution. So to solve that, one thing like we can do is we can create a new folder mxshdpi. So what this XSHDPI is that it like reduces the resolution of the image when like loading the image for your app, right? So that was what causing the lag in your application. Let me just move those files. It should be drawable XSHDPI. Okay, I think that should do it. Let's run it again and see if that solves the problem. So as you can see that there are quite a few things that you need to take into account while creating your app, like the image resolution, how you are like creating your code, like it can have a huge impact on the process that are run. So let's hope. So yes, as you can see, it's quite instant now. So congratulations, you have created your first app. I hope you guys were doing it with me, right? So I think that's it in this path. Like in this path, and like we have completed 2 tracks here. We have added both image resources and we have studied the basic anatomy of our Android project. So let's take a quick 5 minutes break and then we can continue with our next pathway. Do you guys have any questions regarding this path? Okay, we have got something in the chat. Do you guys any questions, guys? Hello.
Can you please paste a quick yes or no in the chat section if you have any questions?
Hello, Bhaiya. Actually, I have a query, but not related to these paths.
Okay.
So can I ask it in the end?
Sure.
Okay.
So, like, we will take a quick 5 minutes break. You can, like, if you still haven't completed doing this pathway on your own, you can try that, right? We will meet in 5 minutes. Okay. So welcome back, guys. So in this, yes, Jamik, please.
Okay, so Mukund, before you continue, I have a challenge for our audience. So is my screen visible?
Yes.
Okay, so guys, I've made a dice roll app. So it's basically a two-player app. So when you click on roll, there are two dices. So we are not going to play alone, right? We are going to play with some friends. So what you can do is, Mukund have implemented only one dice. So what you can do is try adding two or three or four dice. So like we play four-player Ludo, right? So you can do that like in one roll, all can play, or you can add here separate buttons like one button for player one, second for player two, like that. So that's all I wanted to tell you. So this is a challenge. If you finish this code lab, you will end up making this app, and this is a challenge in code lab. So try making it, will be fun, and you will guys will get to know some new things. So over to you, Mukund. That was a challenge.
Okay. Thank you, Jamik. So, like we have completed this pathway too. If you want to take quiz, you can take the quiz. Let's continue with the next pathway. So in the next pathway, we are going to create an about me app where you will have some description about yourself, and we will be adding a bit more user interaction, like where you can enter your nickname and that nickname will be displayed. So let's start with that. So let's start coding. Actually, I have already created that.
Mukund, your screen is not visible to me.
Okay,
Shared.
sorry. Now is it visible?
Yes.
Okay, so as I said, we will start with the next pathway. This is the layouts. So in this pathway, we will be using a linear layout, and in that linear layout, we will be using different things like our text view, the buttons that we saw earlier. I think there is a bit of lag. Okay. So let's see what we are going to do for this pathway, right? So this is what like you guys will be making. It's quite simple. So first of all, like I created an linear layout. Okay, and using that, in that linear layout, I added a text view. Let me just quickly edit everything. So to add a layout, you can go to the layout section here. You want to add a linear layout. So in that linear layout, So what linear layout basically is that you can position your views either linearly or horizontally. There is no constraint in this linear layout. There is a fixed position in linear layout. So what we want is we want some text view here. Okay. So I want, let's name the text view text name, and so in that linear layout we want a text view, we want a why is it not working, Jamik?
It should work fine, I guess.
Alright, so we are learning glow on time. So let me just explain it directly from my code here. So what I did was I created a linear layout. You can either create a linear layout using the XML code, or you can use the layout designer. Then I added a text view. Okay, the text view where I display my name. Then I added a edit text view. So edit text is similar to the text view, but instead of just displaying a text, what it does is you can input, like you can take user input in an edit text view. Then I added a button, right? So also then another image. Then I added a scroll view. So you can like search for a scroll view here, and you can add a scroll view directly. A few things that I created was like in the previous app we used a string resource, right? So in this also I created the string resources for the strings that I've used in my app, like the bio that I'm using here. I have created a string resource for it. I have created a string resource for my name. All right. So what this app basically does is that whenever I enter my nickname here and press done, my nickname is displayed, and if I want to edit that nickname, I can click on that edit text once again. Okay, so one more thing that I would like to show you guys is that like I have created this styles.xml file. Like this is also a resource file where like you can save your file styles, like the font family that you want to use for your text, the text size that you want to have. So like, so how you can change your font family is that select a text view. You can search for font family. To set it to Roboto, you can go here to more fonts, to Roboto, and you can set it, right? So what similar to the strings resource file, what this style resource file does is that if you have got similar style requirement throughout your app, you can just create one single style resource, and then you can use it for different text views. Okay. Let's look at the code that I've written and what it's doing. So for this I have two functions. One function is called the add name and another is called the update name. So what this add name is doing, like in the previous example, like I create reference to the edit text that I created here, this edit text. Then I have a reference to the text view where I will display my nickname. Then I have a reference to the button which I will be using. So we did this in the last example, right? So what I want to do is that whenever I press my button, I want the button to be like invisible. I want the edit text to be invisible. I want my text view to be visible, and on that text view my the nickname what I have entered should be displayed. So how I'm doing is that I am selecting like I'm setting the nickname and its attribute text to the edit text, the name that we are getting in my edit text variable, and I am setting it to my nickname text, right? Then I am setting the visibility. It is also an attribute of the edit text view to gone. So what it does is that it like the edit text view is not visible on my UI. I am doing the same thing for my button, but I want my nickname text view to be visible, right? So this is for the add nickname part. What this thing is doing here is that uh, whenever I type something, our Android keyboard is open, right? So after I press the done button, what should happen is that my Android keyboard should be automatically like it should be hidden automatically. So this is what this code is doing. Uh, so now let's look at the function update nickname. In that, what I want to do is that after I have pressed my done button, I want, like if you want to update your nickname, you can like click on the edit text view, and the you need to click on your nickname and the edit text view will be visible again, and you can change your nickname, and you can like change update your nickname using that. So this is what we are doing, like we are creating the reference to the edit text and the button, and then we will be like we will set the visibility of edit text again to visible. In the previous like add nickname part, we changed it to gone, right? So we want it back, like we want to update our nickname. We want our done button to be visible again, but we want like the text view to be gone, okay? And we want this what this request focus method does is that we want our cursor to directly be on focus at the edit text, like as soon as it is visible, you can update your nickname. Now like for this part, like we have just created a reference, and then we have set the on click listener as we did in the dice roller app, and we are just calling the methods add nickname and update nickname. So do you guys get it, or you guys have any doubt in this code?
Bhaiya, what is this input method manager?
Yeah, so as I said, so this input method manager, like whenever you are opening an edit, you are inputting something in your edit text, right? So your keyboard Android, the default Android keyboard is open. Do you get me? So what this input manager does is that it gets that uh, window, keyboard window, and it hides that window from your view. So what, like if you hadn't done this, right, if you remove this code, so what will happen? as soon as you press your done button, your nickname will be updated, but your keyboard will still be visible. It will not like you will have to do a back to like close your keyboard. But using this input method manager variable, where you get the reference to your keyboard and hide it from your window, so whenever you press the done button, like it will close the keyboard automatically. Let me just show you directly. So I will comment this out and let me run the app. Okay. So as you can see, the keyboard is on. Let me type in my nickname, and when I click done, you can see that my nickname is visible here, but the keyboard is still open, right? So to improve the user experience, what like this does is that as soon as you like press the done button, it will close the keyboard.
Okay, got it.
You got it?
Yes.
Any other doubts? So this is the app. As you can see that the keyboard automatically closed. Then I want to update my nickname. I will click on the edit text, and you can see the keyboard is open automatically. And what this request focus does is that my cursor focus is already on the input. So let me change my nickname, and the keyboard closes automatically. So that's it about the about me app. We still like I wanted to complete 3 pathways today, but it took a lot of time. So what you guys can do is you can like continue with the units here. Like you can complete the Kotlin fund, the pathway 1 and the pathway 2. We have covered that, and you can start with the pathway 3. Right? So any questions regarding this? Any questions?
Yes, Shivesh, go for it.
Sir, Kotlin language is used for Android app for building an Android apps. Sir, Java ક્યાં use થાય છે main?
જાવા બી એન્ડ્રોઈડ એપ્સ માટે યુઝ થતી હતી પહેલા એટલે એન્ડ્રોઈડ એપ્સ માટે જાવા જ યુઝ થતી હતી. કોટલિન હમણાં નવી નવી ડેવલપ થઈ હતી ને એ અત્યારે એટલે જાવા કરતાં વધારે ડેવલપર ફ્રેન્ડલી છે કે તારે વધારે સિન્ટેક્સ ને બધા ઉપર ફોકસ કર્યા વગર.
ઓકે ઓકે, આપણે આમ જાવા જેવી જ તે પણ આમ ઈઝી જાવા કરતા અને નવી અને ઇન્ટરેક્ટિવ.
હા
ઓકે.
Mukund, you can show what we are going to do tomorrow.
Okay, sure. So for the tomorrow's session, we will be creating this my color views app. So it's basically an app where you can change the color of your view using an button, like using the click. And we will be like going through the navigation process where you will have multiple activities and you can navigate between them. And we will be looking at the activity life cycle of the Android, as I mentioned earlier, how like you will be seeing what on create, on pause, and on stop does. Right. So I think we are done for the day. You can share what you have created on LinkedIn and other social media using the hashtag Android Study Gems. And if you want more resources to learn, you can go to these sites like this developer.android.com is a quite a good documentation for different things. Like there is quite a few examples available on different views and view groups that you can see there. Okay, so I think that it should be that should be enough for this session. Thank you, everybody.
Okay, thank you guys. First, I will stop the recording. Thank you guys.